So that shiny new game just came out, Until Dawn 2024, and you want to know if it's worth your time, right? Well, let's take a look at the game first and first impressions. Keep in mind this is not a full review, this is a quick look at the game. I played the game for about 3 hours, so I'll show some footage of the game while describing it and giving a few thoughts on it. First things first, this game requires a PlayStation account to play. Secondly, some of you may want to know the performance of the game on PC. Here's what I had: 3080 Ti, 1440p, DLSS on quality, and all settings were max with the exception of a few on high instead. I was getting 70ish to 100ish FPS. I was mostly sitting in the high 70s to mid 80s. I had no issues with stuttering or the likes. Everything played just fine on my PC. Visually, the game looks good too. I know this game came out on PS4, but I have no knowledge of this game beforehand, so I can't compare any differences as I never played the original. Currently on Steam, the reviews are mixed, with most people disliking the PlayStation account requirement, as well as some people having performance issues. Okay, with all of that out of the way, let's take a look at the game itself. After playing for 3 hours, I can say that this game has a very slow start. The prologue has some action, but after that it took longer than 2 hours to get into more. Also, this game is less so a game and more so watching scenes and making decisions. This is more like an interactable movie, I think. I played the first 4 chapters of this game and ended right at the beginning of chapter 5. In the time frame that I played, exploration is almost non-existent, and even walking around is very limited. When you actually can walk around, you can't run, so you're limited to a very slow walk, and the pathways are very linear. The only items that you can really find are totems that show future outcomes. I'm pretty sure the decisions that you make in the game change possible outcomes, so seeing possible futures in the totems are actually pretty cool. You could or could not get those futures based on your own decisions. I think all of the visions that I saw, not a single one came true other than the very first one I saw that had a bird in it. There are a few other items that you can find that have random info, but those are not that common. There's no inventory either. It's just straight up a game with a story to tell, and you're along for the ride. There are also a few quick time events, like try to keep a bar within the shape and press the correct button it shows on the screen real quick. It took me 2 hours to play through the prologue and chapters 1 and 2, and then the remaining hour I went through chapters 3 and 4, and the beginning of 5 was just starting. The first 2 chapters were kind of boring to me. It's all setting things up and some drama, and I was getting sleepy as I was mostly just sitting here watching. Chapter 3 is when the story starts to ramp up, I think. In the prologue, there are 3 siblings, Josh, Hannah, and Beth, and they're all at a cabin having a party with their friends. All of the friends play a joke on one of the sisters, Hannah. She likes a guy named Mike, but Mike is already taken, so they all leave a note that makes it seem like Mike is interested in her, and then they all hide and wait for her. Hannah starts unbuttoning her shirt in front of Mike, and then another girl comes in, Sam, and tells her to stop it, and explains that they're just playing a prank. They all come out from hiding, and Hannah runs out of the cabin in embarrassment. Then her twin sister Beth chases after her. Beth finds Hannah, but then are chased by someone in the woods. They are cornered at the top of a mountain, and then they fall off, but they're still hanging there. The person who is chasing them offers a hand, and then the game offered a choice: to fall with her sister or to let go of her sister and take the hand. I literally assumed if I selected let go that they'd both survive and maybe be injured. I thought that if I grabbed the hand, the remaining sister would feel guilt, so I tried to make them both live. Well, as it turns out, that option makes them both die. I don't know if one sister would have lived had I grabbed the hand, but man, I did not expect them both to die. I'll briefly go over chapters 1 and 2 now. The brother Josh invites everyone back to the cabin for another party, a year later. I think he wants to try and get over the death of his sisters. There's a bunch of dialogue, drama, turning on some generators and hot water, but I'll skip over all of that. Everyone is now split into different groups and locations, and you'll be switching perspectives to each group as their story progresses. One weird thing I noticed while playing is some parts of the game have a fixed camera mode, and I don't know why. It doesn't add anything, there's nothing going on, it just does it for no reason and then transitions back to the free camera. It's really strange and I didn't really care for it. Chapter 3 now. This is where the action starts to ramp up. Mike and Jess come across a deer that was bleeding out, so I have Mike put it out of its misery. However, somehow the whole head came off, and then the deer's body was snatched away very quickly. They ran to a cabin nearby, and then that's when Jess was snatched. It looked crazy the way that she was grabbed through the small window in the door, and after seeing it slow down while editing just now, it looks like a big 8-foot tall creature with blackish skin. Those totems that show potential futures are Native American, so perhaps it's a Native American demon or creature from their culture. There is another aspect of this game that I failed to mention. There's a doctor named Dr. Hill. In between chapters, he's talking to someone and asks them questions. At first I thought that the person was someone who was in the friend group, but the more I see the doctor, the more I believe he's talking directly to you, the person playing the game. I'm not fully sure about that though. Also, each time that you see the doctor, his room gets more and more messed up looking. To begin, it looks just fine, but then you'll start to see boarded windows, a heart in a jar, and so on. He asks questions that you have to answer, and I also don't know if those answers affect the game or not. I'm kinda in the dark and just guessing so far. Back to chapter 3 now. A few of them take out a spirit board and are trying to communicate with the dead just for fun. Why not? Guess who answers them though? Hannah, one of the dead girls from the prologue. Hannah, as a spirit, says that there's something in the library, so 2 of them go there and find a hidden button on the shelf. Inside, they find a note stating that a person waited 16 years to get Beth and Hannah, so it seems like premeditated murder to me. Also, in an earlier scene, there was a voicemail stating that the police couldn't keep a certain person in prison, so I'll assume that the person who killed the sisters is that same person, and also the person who made that note. I could be wildly wrong though. I've never played this game and I haven't finished it yet. Two people are screaming behind a door, Josh and Ashley. So Chris barges in and gets knocked out by someone in a skull mask. Chapter 4. After talking to Dr. Hill in between chapters, now you're playing as Mike again, and now he's chasing whatever took Jess. There were multiple QuickTime events during the chase, and I messed up several of those. I think that might be why Jess ended up dead, but again, I can't be certain of that. Back to the other two people who were taken now. You're playing as Chris again, and he finds Ashley and Josh. They're both tied up with a saw facing them. There's someone on a speaker saying out loud that Chris needs to choose who dies. I wanted Josh to live, since both of his sisters already died, but the game is a little sneak. I pressed the lever to the left so that it would kill Ashley, but it went right and killed Josh instead. After reviewing the footage though, it doesn't look like their feet were tied down. Couldn't Josh have just lifted his legs and been fine? I don't know, that's video game logic for you. After that, chapter 5 begins with Mike following the person who killed Jess, but I got off at that point. For a video game, there's not much game in it. As an interactive story though, it's pretty good. Once you get past the slow beginning, the story starts to get more exciting. I always like in a game when a decision that you make will have ramifications. It makes each decision more worthwhile. If you played this game expecting something like Resident Evil, for example, a game that's more interactive, then you'll be very disappointed. However, if you come into it knowing that it's more of an interactive story, then you'll probably like it. It's good. PlayStation games always have a good story, at least all of the PlayStation games that I've played do, and this one seems to be no different. I personally expected more gameplay as I didn't know much about this game beforehand, and I would have liked more gameplay, but all in all, I still like the game overall as the story is told nicely and it starts to get interesting, though that's my personal opinion. Whether or not this is your type of game, I'll see you on the next one.